Hi, this is Greg Lush, your city manager here in Lebanon. Welcome to Lebanon in Depth. And today I have Kathy Carroll with me, and Kathy and I are going to share with you the great effort that is being shown in our community by our Library Foundation and our libraries. We have two libraries. We really have one library and two buildings, and they're both wonderful things. And I'm a real library patron. My wife and I, we feel strongly how important libraries are. It's always been an important part of our lives and our lives of our children as they were raised. And so, Kathy, welcome to Lebanon in Depth.
Thank you, Greg. I'm happy to be here.
It's great. And as I do with everyone that comes to be on Lebanon in Depth, could you share with our residents a little bit about your background?
Sure. Because I'm working for the libraries and the foundation particularly, I should probably say right off, I'm a longtime library person. I have been doing fund development work for over 30 years. Have done a little public school teaching prior to that. This is work that I really love. I have worked at Colby Sawyer College, the American Cancer Society, New Hampshire Association with the Blind, and really find that this work also dovetails well with my community service interest. I'm a longtime Rotarian in New London and have adopted the Lebanon Riverside Club and go there at least once a month.
That's really wonderful. That's wonderful. I think, and what's so neat that you have such a, in terms of serving to bring to our attention, giving to our library, it's such an important purpose. My first memory of the library is very clear to me, and I can see myself very, really early in my life as a child. Hutchinson Community Library, in Hutchinson, Kansas.
Oh.
And my family, my father was a truck driver, and my mom worked in the home and then worked in truck gardening and things like that. They weren't really big into libraries, but my mother thought it was a great, a good place for me because I love to read. And so she would drop me off at the Hutchinson Library many occasions and I was quite small, and I would just invade that library and find those things on the shelves that interest me. I read series of different types of topics. And it was great. It was, and I just enjoyed sitting there. And it was such a comfortable place for enjoying reading a book and learning, and new worlds opened up. And it was just
absolutely,
and that was exquisite feeling, and I still lives with me now. We're talking in the 1950s, and so that's really neat. Now you have a chance now to serve that purpose of our library here and what it's all about. How did you come to decide to take this job? I know it sounds like it's right kind of up your alley with your interest, but how did you get
That's
into
a great
this
question. The more I explored the position, talked with people, first with Libraries Director Sean Fleming, and then with the search committee, members of the foundation board, I really sensed their commitment to something very special here in Lebanon. Not just the new Kilton Library, but both libraries, as you say, the Two Roofs, One Library. And I have not been in the old West Lebanon Library, but just driving by there a couple of times. And I've been through Lebanon and been part of really the Upper Valley in terms of my orientation from home in New London for 30 years. But I really felt something that I wanted to be part of. And it was a new opportunity to build a program, to promote the libraries, talk about them, share a library's update, ask people to share their library story with me. There are lots of people with wonderful library stories. And mine, I mentioned the West Lebanon Library. Just driving by there, it just reminded me of the library that I used back in the 50s in West Acton, Massachusetts. And it's still there, the Citizens Library. And I started with the Nancy Drew books. I was about 9 years old and just never looked back. Read everything I could get my hands on. And books do open up whole new worlds, and that's something that we see every day with the young people coming through our doors at both Kilton and Lebanon libraries.
It is, and I love. Maybe we'll touch upon some of the stories you've heard in your travels on behalf of our library foundation and our library. These stories just kind of flash in my eyes when you say things like that, because I start thinking of Eva Lewis. Eva Lewis was my grandmother, and she was the city librarian of Inman, Kansas. And Inman, Kansas was it was a stop sign and a rail crossing, and surrounded by wheat farmers. But they had a library. They put a library. It was the Lebanon Public Library, and she was the librarian all her life at the library. And she would sit on the porch, and she was the house that she had. It wasn't a few blocks from where the library was. So she'd walk to the library to go to work, and then she'd walk home again. And so when I would go visit her, then I would go walking with her to the library and walking back. And there was other children who would walk to the library and walk back to their homes. And the farm families would come in with their pickups, and they would drop off their kids for the library, and then they'd head back to work on the farm. So those memories you must encounter when you're out there searching comes up.
Absolutely, and I think sometimes people don't always realize that they do have a connection with the library, a library that goes back. It's become part of them. It's so intrinsic to them. They have to stop and think and sort of, remember that it is a separate and special memory for them.
Yeah, I think every resident in our community ought to think for themselves about this, as to what their experience with the library has been or was in their lives, and how it serves them, and why we need to continue to try to make it the best possible library we can for the community. Now, the foundation, I think we should tell some basics about our operation. There's two bodies that are involved in the library from our community. That is
Correct.
the Board of Trustees of the library, both Kilton Library and
Right.
the Downtown Lebanon Library. And then there's the foundation board. And you work for the foundation board, am I
That's
correct?
right. I'm not, as you know, Greg, I'm not a city employee. I report to the foundation, which is a private 501c3. And my job, really, it's a wonderful job, is to tell the library's story and to invite people to continue to support it. And one of the things I invite people to think about is, imagine your life or the quality of life in Lebanon without the libraries. They really are very much integrated, and it's not a coincidence, I don't think, that both libraries can be traced back to 1909. So we have a very robust history of our libraries and that whole tradition. And I like to think that may have had something to do with inspiring the wonderful bequest we had from Mr. and Mrs. Kilton, that really was the foundation, if you will, for the new library that was named in their honor. That bequest and the people who have kept the libraries viable during all these years, it's such strong people. I have a lot of admiration for them, for both the Board of Trustees of the library and the Board of the foundation members, the board there, because I have got to know them, which has been a very pleasing experience for me. Absolutely, I would agree with that.
They're so dedicated, and they're wonderful people, and they have a lot of knowledge, and they have a lot of life experience, and they have expertise and strength of character. It's just a good group to be
Absolutely.
Involved with.
And I think, particularly with the trustees who are elected by residents, there's a great deal of confidence and trust that's placed in them. They're really shepherding the library. The foundation is more the fundraising arm. We, on the foundation, my staff role, I'm the only employee,
Yes.
we collaborate and work closely with the trustees, and of course Library Director Sean Fleming. The trustees really set the priorities, and then it's our job to look for funding.
Yes.
And we are always careful to say that the city provides very generous funding, but it can't cover everything. It doesn't cover all of our annual operating expenses. More importantly, it doesn't fuel new initiatives, new programming, new directions that we need to go in to really keep the library strong and relevant. They're community centers as much as anything else, and it sounds as though from your boyhood in Kansas, they were community centers then, maybe more children congregating. But we see families, multi-generations, every generation, coming in and using the library for a variety of reasons, and we can maybe get into that a little bit. So it's important to keep that going with private support.
It is, and we've had discussions about this, is that by doing this, what helps the city is because the city has reached a point in the way the property tax system works in New Hampshire that it really is a real significant burden that the people that are the parcel owners in our community bear in trying to keep our local governments going. And so as part of that, we try to be very lean and have been, but it still kind of presses people to the max because of the really focus on property tax and no other means of raising revenues.
Right.
But the world doesn't stop because we have a property tax system issue. The world goes on, and the world is saying to us to have these community information centers, to look at what the 21st century library should entail, how it should deliver its services, and what technologies should it deploy. There's so many emerging technologies.
Absolutely.
And people need a home to go to sometimes now between work and home. You know, the options available to families and to individuals and to persons that really may find it really need of information. They need a place for that, and that's why it's so important. And I guess that we have some diversity going in our libraries, community places that just provides lots of different opportunities for different folks. Now, what are the foundation setting priorities to try to provide a way of giving money to help us reach these important features that are necessary for us in this new century? What are their priorities right now?
We have a first set of priorities that emerged after a joint session last spring and then a follow-up meeting with both the foundation directors and the trustees working together. And we also invited some other stakeholders to that first meeting. And it was very ably facilitated by a West Lebanon resident who's a member of the Lebanon Riverside Club, who has a library background, Bill Secord. Really led a very fine session, but there was the participation from staff, trustees, directors, some other interested citizens that really formulated the priorities that were finalized after due deliberation and discourse. Right now, we're looking at plans to renovate the Lebanon Library downtown, really to give patrons a better experience in terms of more room to use technology, to rest and relax. You referred to needing a place between work and home, vice versa, to allow us an overall better patron experience with access if you have a disability to the circulation desk, enhanced really traffic flow and movement, and it's more than just a special exit and a ramp. It's actually the traffic flow in the space on the first floor, really reconfiguring some spaces so that we have more room for patrons. If we're not using an office, let's open that up. Maybe it's an area for young adult programming, a better, more conducive area for study. And you mentioned technology. One of the statistics that I was reviewing before our talk today, Greg, our public internet access computers were used over 28,000 times.
That's wonderful.
Which is amazing. Lots of people come to us because they don't have a computer at home or it's a comfortable place to use a computer. Many of them are also bringing their laptops in, and I think computer use would be much higher. We don't track Wi-Fi use. One of the things in terms of diversity, and we see this, I think, particularly at Kilton because of our location and our proximity to White River and Hartford, we have tremendous numbers of people, and we don't know because we respect patron privacy, but many people, so we're not tracking this, many people come to us looking for help accessing social services. Help me find a job. Where do I look? What are some resources? Help me with my resume. This really is all part of how robust and relevant our libraries are today. When I first took this job, and maybe this was part of the challenge, I had so many people say to me, you know, libraries don't have any money and they're a dying breed. And I have discovered that's not true. The statistics for programming, circulation, meeting room space for both libraries last year are astounding. We had over 160,000 people go through our doors. Our circulation of materials was about 140,000, and that included children's materials of about 69,000. So those are just some of the numbers. But libraries are very relevant today. Nationally, 2/3 of Americans have library cards. I don't know how that correlates with Lebanon, but we have tremendous usage of the library. People use the libraries 50% more times than they go to the movies. These are American Library Association statistics. So libraries are indeed very, very dynamic and alive, and Lebanon fits right into that national trend beautifully.
It really does, and you know, we were talking about and as you were mentioning things, the features of the library. You covered a significant number of those features as you describe it, but you know, I'm just amazed at all of it. You know, to be able to have a meeting room.
Yes.
You know, to be able to have access to a computer, to be able to have audio, video access with regards to that, and to have an experience with your children. You know, and the programs, the programs that are offered up as they developed in the library, and there's a lot of good collaboration goes on in the library with other entities and other parts of our community.
Absolutely.
In developing programs.
And I'd like to maybe mention a couple. My office is in the Kilton. I certainly am familiar with both libraries, but Kilton is my home base, so to speak. We have, I think, particularly strong children's programming, and maybe that's just something that resonates with me as a teacher. Just very exciting to be part of these programs, to sort of hang back in the community room at the Kilton, see the caregivers, the parents, the children of all ages, really wonderful offerings and just really rich treasures. Parents take advantage of them. We're hoping, as time goes on, more and more will take advantage of them, but they are wonderful. And they're free of charge. Some of them are underwritten or paid for with outside funding, but most of them are made possible because of our support from the community through, the tax funding and other gifts. We are spending some efforts. This is sort of a subset of our priorities as we look to technology and something called maker programming. Mm-hmm. And this could be a whole interesting program with our IT librarian, Chuck McAndrew.
I really enjoy the IT
It's
librarian.
fascinating, and I just know enough to be dangerous, but we have a wonderful electronics course, Arduino course going on right now that started last Monday night, this past Monday evening, runs through into November, and it's being funded by Hypertherm's Hope Foundation. And they are partnering with us. We have someone from Hypertherm who's participating in the class. They've taken a great deal of interest in the development, and it's really a partnership, and we can offer that because of that kind of funding opportunity.
That's really, really wonderful. I think that, there's so many things when you think about this. The website of the library is very robust.
It is, and thank you for mentioning that. I think if people go there, they'll be amazed at what they see. They can check the online catalog. They can reserve museum passes. They can read staff picks. Periodically, we take turns recommending books, and those are posted. What are people listening to? Lots of people like to know what the librarians and people who work at the library are reading, and we're happy to share that. You can renew a book. You can take advantage of something called Transparent Language, which is kind of a language course that you can do online. It's the best way I can describe it. I think that's accurate. We have a Twitter feed. There's a history pin. We have pictures of the 1964 fire. It's really quite a resource, and I think a great introduction to the library, and I hope that will pique people's interest to come and visit us.
I hope so too. I would encourage anyone to please take a peek at that at the website. You can find it by you can Google it, or you can find it just by going to our leb.net website, and as part of us, it has a link and a link over into out of the city's website into the library's website. I know, and there's some interesting, like you can pick up solid waste tickets, things. There's a bunch of miscellaneous things
that
are part of providing the community need.
I have learned that the job of a librarian is much more diverse than I ever imagined.
Yeah, they're doing all kinds of things. They're like a general store, kind of.
They are indeed.
A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
And I have to say that I think that the staff of the libraries, and every librarian works at, the substitutes work at both libraries. They are really a terrific group, very dedicated to their work and to the patrons.
A good teamwork
Absolutely.
going on between, from all levels, to the trustees, to the foundation, to our director, who we greatly appreciate, and then to the librarian staff and all the people that work in the library.
That's great. Thank you for saying that, Greg.
I just have a lot of respect for them. I've enjoyed when we've had a few people on from the library here, and it's always been a really enjoyable moment when they're here with us. They bring a lot to the table when we have them present and talk about their programs, talk about themselves. When you go out and ask people to give or corporations to give, how do you approach that? I mean, some people have a hard time asking that, and maybe they don't.
That's a great question.
Don't quite understand how that goes.
Well, I think what's always worked well for me in my experience over the last 30 some odd years is you do a little homework. You find out what they're interested in, what they have funded in the past, what maybe they're looking to be more involved with. You're really building a relationship with the person at the corporation or the foundation who's the decision maker or who's going to present your request. And that's really no different than talking to an individual donor, a community member, a patron. It's an individual conversation. And I try to make it very personal. Learn as much about them as I can. Share what's going on at the library, what we're doing well, maybe what we'd like to do better. Maybe that's an opportunity for a relationship with a corporation or a foundation. That we need some funds to sort of do some problem solving around this issue. Not that that's pertinent for the library right now, but that could be, but that's sort of part of the general approach. But you're really presenting an opportunity. We have an idea, we have this possibility, and this is a priority. It fits into our business plan, if you will, if you're talking to a business person. Or our overarching goals for the library, and remind them that the library belongs to them. It's very personal. And funding is always important. I mean, my job is to invite support and to obtain gifts. But you want a long-term relationship, and it's sort of the art and science of knowing when to ask, sort of invite the question. And sometimes you don't always get a yes, but I always interpret that as no, thank you, not now, maybe later. I've been very fortunate to have few sort of, doors slammed in my face, if you will. But it's really about building a relationship and having a conversation, and it builds, and it's really easy when the time is right to make the ask, because the person you've been having this conversation with, building the relationship, is kind of expecting that.
Yes.
And many feel that it's an opportunity, and they're honored to be asked. And you may ask them for something that they're not that interested in. They'll tell you, well, I'd be more interested in doing something, not so much in technology, but children's programming. Or, I don't really like the renovation idea. I know it's important, but that's not resonating. Is there something else? Adult literacy with, digital literacy, something like that. But it's all part of a conversation. you're selling the library, but you're also, selling an opportunity for them to be part of something very exciting.
I think it's great. Part of our theme in the city is really about people. I mean, there's about 3 things the city does,
Absolutely.
and we do infrastructure, which is really part of it. That's where our real strength and skills are, trying to manage and deal with all the infrastructure issues that are coming as it finishes its life cycle. We want to keep the place safe and secure. But the part about people is the third really pillar of the city, of the 3 pillars. And the relationship with people built on conversation, two-way conversation, listening conversation, trying to see where we have interests that would lead us to reach a point where we have consensus and we can live with moving forward in certain ways. And when you talk about having conversations with people about how to help the library move forward in a sustainable way, so that we're able to kind of, it oftentimes when you see through the window, the world seems pretty, it's a very difficult, challenging place. It seems very uneven, and it seems, it doesn't, it's not the way perhaps anyone would ever want it to be. And the library, though, is a place where people are having conversations, you're having conversations and developing relationships with people.
Yes.
And people have conversations either with themselves in the relation of the books they read or with others. And I noticed there's a book club that people could join a book club. And,
Yes, we have a couple of
and
those.
there's a couple of them, and you could select your topics, and then, and had reading assignments and questions that you would ask of each other in a book club setting. And there's just so many interactions that you can see by the library. So asking people to join in the conversation by you doing this, which then leads to eventually moving conversation to action.
Yes.
And making commitments.
That's right.
Is really, a very wonderful way to build our relationship. So it's nice to see you do that.
Well, thank you. Well, you, I think, were the one that coined a phrase that we are fond of using, public-private partnership. It's really the community, our residents, patrons, and other friends, really working in partnership with the library, with the city, across all departments to really keep the fabric of Lebanon strong.
Yes, because there's, I think cities and our communities are organic. So
Yes.
we're all part of each other's. We're part of all the built infrastructure, the natural infrastructure. Everything about this situation that we have is we're all connected in this big circle thing. And that's why I think that, that needs that are so great there, but the public mechanisms to meet those needs through tax systems are woefully inadequate. And so that's why we lead to the foundation, because this is a place where we can join together and make common cause and contribute. In our last few minutes together, I want us to talk about the ways of giving. There's many ways. My wife and I are participants in this, in what you're
Yes,
doing.
thank you, Greg.
And so
bringing
we
that
do,
up.
and it was very simple. What we did, we simply went on the website. There's a thing about giving. They cited it, and I do everything electronically, basically, and I electronically transfer dollars to our contribution.
Yes, you're one of our most loyal supporters. Thank you, Greg.
So there's many ways of giving. So could you describe some ways how people might give?
Yes, and I think we're going to try to expand that in the future. Right now, we have an annual appeal. I think this is our 3rd or 4th year of doing the appeal, where we invite the support of our residents and other friends to make a gift to the annual fund.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have a fall appeal going out in November. There are ways that you can support the library through volunteerism,
Mm-hmm.
through book donations,
Mm-hmm.
and those happen in a variety of ways. I know I myself have brought books in, sometimes they're put in the collection, sometimes they're not.
Yes.
They're put on the books that are available for sale or the free books, and I think that is a very sustainable practice.
Yes.
So you're supporting the library with all of that. There's also, and this is where the work of the foundation comes in, we would like our friends to consider legacy gifts, long-term
Yes.
support. And we're going to be developing a program along those lines. In addition to current gifts, maybe special gifts to support a project, which is my focus, and leadership gifts to the annual fund. Gifts of all sizes matter, and it's really about participation, and we invite all of that.
Well, we hope you have listened to our show today and see the ways of doing. Now, if someone wanted to contact about giving, in our last sentence or two, what would be the best way of doing that?
I hope they'll be in touch with me personally. My direct office line is 603-442-6156, or they can reach me via email. It's kathy.carroll@leblibrary.com.
Well, that's great. And what we'll do is we'll with the kind help of our great collaborators and partners, CATV, we'll get that information and try to put it on the screen.
Thank you, Greg, and I want to thank all our current supporters for their wonderful support, and thank you, Greg, for inviting me to be here with you today.
I'm really happy to. All right, remember, give to your library. Without that giving that we need to do, we won't be able to do the things we're doing and the great possibilities of the future. Take care today and have a good day in Lebanon.